Hello, it's me again. So today I'll be talking about the moon's importance and the literal terraformation of Mars. So this is going to be a relatively medium-sized video because there's more speculation to this than actual facts and data since we haven't done this before. This is basically a gamble. This will be the final episode of the Mars series, at least for now. After on, I will talk more about Mars in different ways, definitely, because it's a subject that I'm really interested in. The moon will be very important for the colonization of Mars. Building a moon base will open pathways to our solar system, and will give us kind of a test run on how we can colonize places. The moon will make it easier to colonize other planets in the future because of this. We would know the gist of colonizing, and all we would need basically are the resources. Obviously, it would be different depending on the planet since it will definitely have a different environment, but it would more or less have the same process. NASA plans on going to the moon by 2024 using their project, which is the Project Artemis. And I've talked about this before in the previous videos. The mission will be hard, but not too much of a challenge, as in that it won't be much of a challenge as Mars will be. NASA is willing to invest and spend time on this project, as it will be crucial later on. Right now, NASA does have a plan, which I will elucidate on, but I would also like to give you some of my own details, which I think would be good for the moon project. So when we send Orion, the spaceship, to the moon, it will have some inflatable habitats which scientists can use as housing laboratories. We will dig into the ground and retrieve ice, which we can use for many resources. We can use it for water, and to water plants and convert it into oxygen and rocket fuel. The moon base would require an immense amount of funding, which you would get from private sectors and private investors. Here's why. The moon has an abundance of many resources, some which are even scarce on our own Earth. There could be rocket fuel, uranium, and even gold. They would pay millions of dollars to get to the moon, eventually funding the companies who are in charge of the moon. There, they could get rich on whatever materials they could find. And I'm sure that there are going to be more materials that they're going to find with more and more exploration. Because of the lack of data that we have of the moon, we're not really sure what all materials are buried inside its rocky crust. We've already gone through the first phase of colonization of the moon. This started 50 years ago when the first man landed on the moon. We're halfway close to the second phase, which is to start industrialization on the moon. So I'd say, yeah, we're pretty close. Now I will talk about the literal terraforming of Mars. This is the most important part of moving to Mars. We'll have to change the complete atmosphere of Mars. This will definitely be by far the hardest thing the human race has ever done. The task is long and very, very hard to do. So without further ado, let's start. Mars does not have an atmosphere, so we have to make one because radiation coming through can kill humans. On our Earth, we are protected by radiation because of our magnetic field. So, our basic plan is to live on Mars without spacesuits, oxygen converters, the whole bunch. Basically, live on it like you're living on Earth. As I've said before many, many times throughout the series, it's going to be a challenge. How are we going to make an artificial atmosphere on Mars, you might be wondering? Well, we're not. We're actually going to be creating a natural one. Or at least I think that scientists are going to be creating one. So let's talk about global warming for a second. The atmosphere is slowly melting away due to global warming. This is causing carbon dioxide to be released into the atmosphere where it thickens the atmosphere. Well, Mars has a very, very thin layer of atmosphere, and it also has no poles. Therefore, we could melt the poles, and because of this, there would be a ton of water. This water will not be pure, but it's water nonetheless. This water would not only be used for drinking, but also to create weather such as rain and snow. How will we get oxygen? Simple. We can literally plant a lot of trees. When we get our carbon dioxide to convert into oxygen. Once again, I've talked about the MOXIE system briefly in the last video, but we could use that for a while. And if you haven't seen that video, basically the MOXIE is a system that was developed by NASA scientists, which basically takes carbon molecules in the air and converts them into oxygen, which I think is really, really neat. So for a while, the MOXIE system will have to suffice. However, you might be wondering that it's absolutely absurd to think about planting trees on Mars. It's not really that absurd because Mars actually has the soil to sustain it. And slowly we'll bring in livestock into Mars and eventually have a proper breathing atmosphere. Ideally, we would be living without spacesuits for the rest of our days. Unfortunately, and very unfortunately, this probably won't happen anytime soon. To say the least, according to my guesses, it'll probably take thousands of years, thousands of years. I don't have an exact number, but it could take many, many millennia. It could happen before then if we find technology to speed that process up. One example is the Dyson sphere, but that's a topic for another day. That's the end of the series. Let's go over the checklist just to make sure we've covered everything. So I covered food, I covered water, I covered shelter, I covered clothing, and I covered oxygen. There was also radiation protection, but I've decided not to do that because there isn't enough data right now. Once again, too much speculation. I hope you guys like the video and have a great day. Bye bye.